and welcome to ThinkOval.com's video wrap. This week we're talking about the NBA, the NFL, Australian cricket and Mitchell Johnson retiring, and also EPL, A-League and Australia's World Cup qualifier. To get things started, Mitchell Johnson finishing up his career, distinguished career might I add, for the Australian cricket team this week was met with sadness throughout the cricketing world.
Knocks him over with pace, real pace.
Mitchell Johnson's career was highlighted by his 2013-2014 Ashes series and the early 2014 period against South Africa. His 37 wickets against England in the 2013-2014 Ashes at 14 runs apiece was the epitome of fast bowling. He terrorised the opposition with short pitch deliveries and an in-your-face attitude that can only be described as fierce. The Australian cricket team is going to be facing a very tumultuous time coming up, trying to replace Mitchell Johnson. They've got James Pattinson coming in, who's a very good fast bowler. Right arm quick, bowls in excess of 150 kilometres an hour. 25 years old, but has been dealing with a lot of injuries since he came onto the scene. It'll be interesting to see if he can stay fit for an extended period of time, much like Johnson did in the early part of his career, especially sort of mid to late 20s. Johnson was having a fair few injuries and only really sort of came good when he was about 32. So if they're going to be waiting 7 years for James Pattinson to get fully fit for only 2 years worth of bowling, it's going to be another tough pill for the Australian selectors to swallow. On to NFL news this week. It's going to be interesting to see which team is going to lead the NFC into the Super Bowl. If it's going to be the Carolina Panthers, I don't think they're going to be able to hold up against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. The NFC seems to be in absolute shambles right now. One of the preseason favourites, the Green Bay Packers, have lost 3 games on the trot, and Aaron Rodgers has looked a shadow of himself in the last 3 weeks. Ever since they went to Denver and got beaten up by that Denver defence, they've just lost all confidence in their receivers. At the start of the season, I had Green Bay beating New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. Now, I don't even think they'll make it to the championship game. After watching the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday night, I don't believe they're going to be able to compete going into the end of the season. Their defense is good, their special teams is good, but they gave away a lot of penalties on offense this week, and Andy Dalton looked like the Andy Dalton we've come to expect. Started the season amazingly, as he does in most Octobers, but he has looked average at best the last couple of weeks, and the defense and special teams has kept them in the game for the last couple of wins, and this week they just couldn't do enough to overcome the offensive deficiencies. On the ground, Giovanni Bernard, 8 rushes for 36 yards at 4.5 yards per carry. Andy Dalton, 5 rushes for 30 yards, and that was as good as it got for the Bengals. They need to sort out their backfield, and they seem to abandon the run really quickly, and Andy Dalton seemed to get frustrated that his down the field threats were covered, and tried to push passes, which led to 2 interceptions. It seems as though they're only happy to use Tyler Eifert in the red zone, as opposed to trying to get the ball up the field with short crossing routes of 6 or 7 yards per pass attempt. He's a big, strong kid. He did have a couple of drops on Monday night, which was quite out of character. But if they can utilise him more in their normal drives, getting up the field, they should be able to open up the outsides a little bit more for AJ Green and Marvin Jones. In the EPL, it seems to be a 2-horse race so far for the title this year, with Manchester City and Arsenal clearly the 2 teams to beat. They had lacklustre performances in the last EPL round, where they both had draws against less fancied opponents. And with Leicester City and Manchester United sitting at 3rd and 4th, less than a win behind, they're going to be wanting to go out and prove a point. Arsenal's attack throughout a 3-week period looked absolutely unstoppable. When they play quick, up-tempo football, and they pass the ball around, especially on the outside of the box, teams are not going to be able to stop them. Manchester City probably has the best roster in the league, but their consistency, especially up front, and if they are missing Aguero, is something that's going to be a concern for them. Manchester United have a lot of good players in their roster. Probably have the best named roster, but they still haven't played together as a team. They are still learning how each other plays, and they're trying to learn the systems that Van Gaal has put in place. The real surprise packet has been Leicester City. They have been improving over the last few years, but nobody would have expected them to be sitting third after 11 full match rounds. Chelsea is obviously the biggest story of the EPL this season. How they've gone from premiers last year to currently sitting in 16th position and having lost more games than they did over the previous 2 seasons combined is bewildering. Will they get rid of Jose Mourinho? I don't think so. The fact that they're struggling a little bit now doesn't really take away the fact that he's still one of the best managers in the world.